So I'm certain that if you're a parent, you have a number of conversations with your kids about stranger danger, right? Crosswalks, drugs, and when they get older, sex, of course, right? And bullying, and a whole bunch of important conversations. But really, do you really ever think to yourself to talk to your kids about cybersecurity? I've got three kids, and I do on a regular and consistent basis. I've been talking to them about that since they were probably 10 years old, in regards to like playing Xbox and making friends on Xbox. So, the problem we have is that parents don't necessarily think to talk to their kids about cybersecurity and scams. And so me and Vinny and Dave are going to talk to you today about not a business conversation, not a business topic, but we're going to talk about this from a personal level because, well, we work for our families and it's important to protect them too. So, but before we get to that, welcome to No Law Firm Left Behind. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Gast, and I'm joined by Dave Myers and Vicente Dalval. They're my cohorts in crime here. But we're not criminals. We're not cyber criminals, at least. What are we here to do? On No Law Firm Left Behind, our goal is to help your law firm be competitive and help your staff and your attorneys be more productive, all leading up to helping you gain and keep clients. So that's why we're here.
Just a little caveat, Jim. We are talking about our kids in this session, but this can be applicable to your employees too. So,
you know what? I mean, but the thing about it is, and that's where I was going to start actually. The thing is that at work, hopefully, at least with our customers, right? They're bombarded with cybersecurity this, cybersecurity that, training this, training that. Watch out for that scam. We got protections in place for them. But man, what do parents put in place for their kids? I'll tell you where this spawned from and why I came up with this topic with you guys. My son Ben is and basically every kid in the whole world is on Snapchat. And so Ben, I've talked to him for years about, hey, you need to be careful. You need not to click on links. And somebody was trying to hack his Snapchat account. He kept getting two-factor authentication prompts, and we'll explain what that is in a minute, from somebody resetting his password on a Snapchat. And he texted me, he said, Dad, he said, good thing I got two-factor authentication on here. I don't know what he called it. He called it something different. So hold on, wait, what's going on here, guys? Yeah, okay, that's cool. Two-factor authentication. But and I'm just kind of, if I didn't have that, Dad, they would have probably hacked my account. Guys, have you had anything similar with your kids?
Fortunately, thus far, I've not. But I know that it's there as a possibility every single day. My kids are more into the Roblox world, where they're out playing Roblox and meeting people and whatnot. And we've had many, many discussions about, what don't you say to these people? Because you have no idea if they really are who they say they are. What kind of information should you never talk about, and so on and so forth. So I haven't had any attempts at the hacking yet or the account compromise, but, definitely have had to have multiple discussions with my girls on how to stay safe when they're out there online and interacting with people in the digital space.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
My kids are 5, so they're not in that space yet. But they got their first email account last weekend. And the reason I did that was to separate the iTunes purchases and things like that. But,
yeah.
They don't have access to a Facebook or Instagram or email or anything like that at this point. So
just so you know, but they won't want that stuff. They won't want that stuff. They want Snapchat. They'll want Snapchat. It's all the kids.
I'm old. That's what I think.
And TikTok, of course, right?
No TikTok.
Yeah. Well,
my kids are mad because I won't let them install either one of those apps.
So that's a good protection right there, Dave. I mean, that's very legitimate. From the time my kids started playing Xbox, because we're an Xbox family, by the way, not a PlayStation family. We play the cool console. So that's a debate for another time, right? What's that? So I had a rule about making friends on Xbox. And my rule was we either know them or the person we know Actually, we've either seen their face. That's what it was. We've either seen their face or the person that we know has seen their face. And those are the people you can be friends with. If you haven't seen their face or your friend hasn't seen their face, you can't be friends. And that's an in-person face, right? That's not a virtual face.
And I have something I want to add to that.
Mm.
And I'm going to go back to what I was saying before about the whole Roblox environment. You don't have to be friends with people to interact with people in a number of these scenarios. So you have to have almost a default drop mentality with your kids.
Yeah.
And it's putting up it's just like cybersecurity in the workspace in a way. You have to put up as many controls, as many little blocks between the threats that are out there and your kids. Yeah. And so, like I said, I have to approve any purchase. I have to approve any friend request. My kids do most of their chatting through Facebook Messenger for kids, but I see every single request. They can't add anybody without me. If they block somebody, it notifies me and says, hey, you might want to talk to your kid and find out what happened here. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, I mean, you just really got to pay attention to what kind of options are out there for keeping your kids safe.
And even for email, for my kids, I set up a managed account, a parent managed account, right? Mm-hmm. And it, there's a lot of controls that you can put in place. I was setting up iPads over the weekend for them, and they play games on them. They play little kid games, right? But sometimes there's ads on there. The kids, our kids, they click on everything they can click on, and so they go into the App Store, and
they all do.
But now, every single vendor out there has controls that you can put in place, and so like I went through and I looked at a lot of the settings within the iPad, and mm-hmm. they, there's a lot of things now that I've set up that they can't control, and because I'm using one account for all of them, when I apply a setting on one device, it applies to all the devices. I have 4 kids, and so. There are things that you can do even when they're not on any of these social media, right? They're just starting off, for example, on just playing games on an iPad or some type of device. There are lots of things that you can put in place already to start protecting them.
You know what? If nothing else comes out of this show today, I think it's kind of like a lot of the shows we have. Don't bury your head in the sand. Be a vigilant parent. And that's the message, that if you don't take anything else away, if you're like, if you're just kind of popping on this and popping off, that's the one thing that you should take away. Now, let's get specific. Okay. Sure. If you're setting up email accounts, if you're setting up iTunes, if you're setting up Apple IDs, right? If you're setting up Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, all those things, have
voice activated assistants like Echoes and any Alexa tool or whatnot. And now it's going to respond because I have one on my desk. But
yeah, right.
Go ahead. But I sorry to interrupt that, but don't forget about those voice activated assistants. Big thing.
Absolutely. Two-factor authentication is the key, in my opinion, to those.
Absolutely.
Right. And so one of you guys want to kind of talk about two-factor authentication? Do you pretty well that how to set up two-factor authentication, like in Facebook or anything like that?
So I actually take it. I'll let Vinny talk about actual two-factor authentication. I take it. I'm the second factor. So my kids want to install something, I have to approve anything that they do.
That's a two-factor all the way. Yeah.
That's a atypical two-factor, but Vinny,
and that's some of the parental controls you get on the Google side, right? As you manage the accounts, right?
Yes.
You have to authorize a lot of different things, and you can control that. You go into the settings, and then you can control that. Setting up two-factor authentication is pretty simple. I don't remember this step by step, but you would go into your settings and your password settings in Facebook or one of their social media apps. I don't do TikTok.
It's almost always a gear, and
it's almost
always a gear or something like that in all these applications.
Yep. And so go into your settings, look for your profile, look for your account settings, typically, and in there you can enable it would be called either multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication.
Right? Yeah, MFA, 2FA, multi-factor,
and the gist of it is you're going to have it's either going to be an app on your phone that's going to provide you a code that changes every 30 seconds, or it's going to be a text message based two-factor code where when you sign in, it sends your code. And I prefer the app over the text message, right? But some folks or some companies out there still haven't moved to completely towards that, and you still have to use the text message. So
yeah. So again,
can I add a point of context here? Because as we're sitting here discussing this, something jumps out at me as being really valuable to point out. Vinny, what's the age range of your kids?
I was going to say the same thing, Dave.
My kids are 3 years old, 4 years old, and 5 years old.
I have a 9-year-old.
I'll change that. We just had a birthday yesterday. We have 3 5-year-olds and a 3-year-old.
Wow. I've got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old.
And I've got a 15-year-old, 18-year-old, and 20-year-old. So, and I'm still trying to protect the 20-year-old.
So here's what's important, and this is what jumps out at me, because Jim, you're talking about the Snapchats and the two-factor on their accounts.
Yeah.
I'm talking about being the second factor. And Vinny, you're just saying they can't even really get to anything, right?
Yeah.
That's because we've got kids in different developmental stages.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So, and it's a perfect conversation.
It really, whereas like Vinny, you're just like locking it down so they don't do anything stupid or accidental.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at that point where I know my kids are going to explore, but I still want to exercise a certain level of control over where they're allowed to go.
Yeah.
And then Jim, your kids are, I don't want to say autonomous, but a heck of a lot more autonomous. So you're trying to teach them good security hygiene.
Yeah, actually, I'm in an interesting place, Dave, because with two of my kids, with one of my kids, I'm starting to loosen the reins. My Abby, who's 15, right? Ben, he's already got his own Apple ID. Jackson's in college and needs the flexibility,
right?
So I'm I've got an interesting dynamic even within mine,
Mm-hmm.
and so there are challenges for each one of them. But I think it does start. It starts with where Vinny's at right now with the little ones, and with you, saying, okay, here we have to have the conversation. If we're going to set this up, this is what it is. Boy, I'll tell you, my 15-year-old daughter, who I love, is beating me up to get her own Apple ID over something silly. We both use wireless earbuds, right? And on the same Apple ID, they like change and we're listening to each other's music sometimes, believe it or not. And so it's not a security thing, but it's one of those things that's going to have to force me to move her into her own realm. Protected.
I have a similar situation, and this is how, and I know this might seem like trivial stuff to the people that are listening, but it's not, because this is how complicated this can get. Yeah. I have a lot. I mean, every room in my house, my car, everything has an Echo device from Amazon, okay, of some sort. And so I've got the parent account, and then we've got my wife's account, and then I've got my children's account, and it's all underneath the family, right? So my kids want to listen to their music on their Echo in their room. Well, I'm not logging in as a full-on account for them, all right, because I don't want them to have certain access to certain things. So I log in as me, which means they need like a voice code in order to perform certain things, which they don't know. The problem is that one of the things I do allow is Spotify. So they're consistently screwing up my playlist because anytime they play something on their Echo, so I'll turn on my music in the car, and I'll have, no offense to anything, but I'll have Billie Eilish playing pretty much every time I turn on my radio.
My wife still does that to me.
And
my Pandora list is completely messed up.
But yeah, totally share, and you might like this, and it's like, no, I don't. But it's the situation like Jim was just talking about with something as trivial as earbuds crossing paths can force you into saying, all right, I'm going to give.
I'm done with this.
I'm going to give you this whole new world, and now you got to be careful out there.
Yep. And you just can't jump into it.
So just so you know, you can create a managed iTunes account for
that's
kids,
what I'll do.
Right?
Yeah.
or you can create a family account, and she can have a regular iTunes account, and you can manage it, and you can even set up to authorize purchases. So and so that's how we're set up right now, because I've locked down the purchases at the iPad level, so I don't have to lock it down at the iTunes level. But you can, when you want to give them more freedom, you can give them certain liberties and things like that.
Yeah, and so let's just talk about a couple of real serious things that you shouldn't do. Kids are going to start using the passwords eventually, and my kids, they need passwords, and I tell my kids, don't use the same password everywhere. And I also tell them kids will save them in their notes on their phones. I'm not a fan of that. I know Dave and Vinny, you guys have different things you like to do. You want to talk about that?
I use LastPass.
I also use LastPass.
Password managers. Yep. I'm a forget and reset guy. If I can't remember it, I reset it.
With password managers, there's some significant benefits to it, but you have to use them right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have to make sure that if you're going to use a password manager, that password you set to that password manager has to be a really good one.
So,
and I have two-factor authentication turned on.
And I was going to mention that too. Well. And most of these apps, as long as you have a reasonably recent mobile device, it's biometric authentication and whatnot. So,
what would you guys recommend about the Netflix password? Do you keep that in your LastPass? Because your kids have got it in their device, you've got it on your devices, you got it on your TV, you got it in your car, you got it on everywhere, right?
Yeah. So one of the benefits one of the reasons why I like password managers is my Netflix password. My kids don't know it. I'll put it in there for them. Yeah. But it's unique. It's the only place that password is used. So even if that password gets compromised, I don't have to worry about it going somewhere else.
Which is the real point here. Don't use the same password.
Exactly.
Yep. And for me, I'll take it a step further. Like my wife, for example, has access to my LastPass through her account, right? Mm-hmm. Because I pay for LastPass, and so one of the benefits is I can give her access to specific folders, and I have all my passwords categorized: work versus home versus personal and things like that. And then I can give her access to all that, all my financial accounts and everything else. She has access to all of that, and she can look up those passwords if she needs to. And I can one day create one for kids, and they can look up their own passwords.
Yep. Well, and I believe under LastPass family account, which is what I have, and I've honestly been meaning to set this up for about a month now. I believe you have the ability to securely share a password with somebody in your family without them ever seeing it. Like you basically send the password to their device. It works on their device, but they don't get to see it or know it.
Correct.
Interesting. Then there's a couple other things here I wanted to bring out. Your kids have phones. Vinny, your kids don't have phones yet, right?
No.
Dave, I know yours do.
Mine do. Yep.
And so phones, are they getting text messages already?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Are they getting the scam text messages with the URL with the links?
Well, how's this? None have been brought to my attention.
Ooh, that scares me, actually. Yeah. So my kids are texters. I mean, they're texting all day long, Snapchatting all day long. And we've gotten to the point where if you don't know it, delete it. And they're good about it. Sometimes they bring them to me because they look like, hey, Dad, is this legitimate? You know what I mean? And so we have a conversation about it, but generally they just delete it now, which is a good thing. I would add to this, although we're talking about kids, elderly, right? Our elderly parents and relatives, they don't know this stuff, by the way. So text messages and clicking on those links in text messages, they're thinking it's a picture from their kids. They don't know, So talk to the elderly about it. Sure. Guys, I got to bring it up. The puppy scam. I got to bring up puppy.
Bring it up, man.
You guys laughed when I said puppy scam, and Vinny, you've got one.
Explain what it is. Explain what it is.
Okay, so well, kids love puppies, right? I mean, my daughter is a puppy fanatic, and my oldest wants us to get a French bulldog, and so yeah, they're shopping, and I'm kind of like, go ahead, shop, right? All you want. Well, it's interesting. There are a lot of websites out there, as I'm finding out over the last month, that are doing puppy scams where they'll sell puppies online, put the best pictures in the world, the most professional websites, the greatest descriptions of the dogs, and sell them, for reasonable prices where kids come to mom, dad, let's get this. And so my kids didn't realize that they were scamming websites, and I didn't either, quite honestly. And so we're like, okay, well, we'll fill out a form, or we'll fill out, to get some information, or we'll shoot an email to them. Well, you can tell when you get the email back that the language isn't perfect in it, and it really upsells, and it also makes you want to purchase quickly because it can find another home. And ultimately, we ended up finding out, and I can't remember how we found out, that they were scams. Now, there's a lot of legitimate websites out there. My friends raise puppies and breed puppies. I've had 4 litters of puppies, and it's fun. It's an enjoyable experience. But we don't post them for sale online. And so this is an online thing that's going on. And my kids, wanted me to buy a puppy from these websites because they didn't know. Mm-hmm. So it's a real thing. Think about it. Puppies. I mean, everybody wants a puppy. Yep. And if you're talking about a French bulldog, you could be talking about a $3,000 dog where an online site's selling it for $1,000 or $800, and you're like, whoa, and you get caught up in it. So there's a lot of scams out there that are going on that if you're not careful, you can fall prey to. So if it is a scam, think about this for a second. And here's why this is important. You say, oh, I won't buy that puppy. They won't get anything. Well, the minute you fill out that form, they just got your email address. They got your telephone number. And now you're going to be targeted by them for emails and text messages, Yep. And so that's where they'll make you fall prey eventually to a phishing email or a text scam or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we laughed at it when we brought it up for the show topic, but it's a real legitimate thing.
Look, here's the reality.
Oh, can I add one thing? My mother-in-law wanted to go to the website and buy the puppy for my daughter.
There you go. So think about it. Let's go back in time. Remember the Nigerian prince scams?
Just do the Wayne's World thing.
Yep.
Back in time, right?
The whole Nigerian prince.
Oh, yeah.
Look, let's face it. Puppies are just like a lottery winning to an adult.
Yeah.
Puppies the same thing. You're going to get that same emotional charge out of a kid through that. So, as much as, because I'm done buying dogs, so I have not heard of puppy scams.
You think you're done buying dogs. Remember,
I'm done buying dogs. I promise you that. I'm in the process of downsizing my dog collection. But I had never heard of puppy scams until Jim brought it up. But really, it doesn't surprise me in the least because most scammers are going to operate off of emotion first. Mm-hmm. And it's a great way to get kids to just get fired up.
And kids are targets.
They are
targets.
And it's not only your young kids; it's your older kids, right? Kids entering college, or leaving college, even. So, one example is the job scams that are out there, right? As your kid's looking for jobs, what is he going to do? He's going to go to a website. He's going to put his information in there and say he's available for work, right? And folks are hackers, scammers are farming that information. They're farming LinkedIn. They're farming, Indeed and all those other places because your information is publicly out there now, right? I know someone who was contacted about a job. They spent about an hour doing a phone interview. It sounded absolutely legit. The next day, she got an offer letter, and it was a great offer letter. It was, by the way, the company. It was a Google company, right? So attractive to young people, right? Or supposedly a Google company, right?
Yeah, right.
And so contacted me and said, "Is this legit?" And I looked at it and I said, I can't tell. I really cannot tell, right? We weren't able to tell until they said, "Hey, this is a remote work job. We're going to send you a check so you can go buy your computer equipment, right? Give us your bank account information."
Oh,
right? And that's where the red flags went up
Yep.
immediately, right? The red flags went up immediately. Um, you know, most organizations actually are going to send you a device, right? They have these things set up and ready to go. But whenever someone asks me for my bank account information and I haven't met that person, I haven't seen physically that face, like you said, Jim,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, nope, absolutely not. That's not going to happen. And so, um, you know, teaching folks about the red flags, I think, is one of the red flags that are out there.
Yeah.
Is one of the and a bank account, asking for bank account information is, to me, absolute stop.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Stop right there, because that's what that's how the Nigerian prince started, right?
And here's the other thing: if you're filling out an online job application, they're asking for your social security number.
No, not typically.
That's another one, right?
Yeah, they typically won't ask that, right?
Most people,
but if they do, I would not do it. I would be at stop right here, right?
Yep. So let me put a couple of things out there, and we'll close the show up here. I tell my kids don't use public Wi-Fi. We went on vacation, and in Myrtle Beach where we were staying, the hotel was horrible for reception, just horrible. And they wanted to use the Wi-Fi in the hotel in the condo that we rented. Well, they came to me, Dad, can we use the condo? Can we use the Wi-Fi? Can we use Wi-Fi? You know what? Until I verified that it was legitimately, that device and so on and so forth, unplug the device, make sure the Wi-Fi goes and plugs it back in. I said no, and so, but they're always wanting to use public Wi-Fi at the mall or wherever, right? I'm a big opponent to that one. You guys on that train?
Yeah, I don't.
Generally, yes. I've used VPN apps in those instances where, I will, and I'm not talking about necessarily a corporate VPN. I'm talking about like a VPN application that runs on your
an anonymizer almost, yeah.
Exactly, which basically, everything before it even goes to that Wi-Fi connection is encrypted so that if there's somebody bad acting on that environment,
man in the middle kind of thing,
you're at least blocking that. Now,
yeah.
Is it advisable? Even under that circumstance, I'm still not a huge fan of doing it, and I try to avoid it wherever I can. But I have had a need to do it. But I do have VPN software on my phone and on my computer for those rare instances where I need to connect to something that I don't know. I don't even connect, like when we go to client sites, I don't even connect to their Wi-Fi.
Neither do, and even the ones that we manage.
Yeah.
Even the ones we manage, I won't do it. And they're like, well,
because
why?
if somebody at one of our clients has clicked on something and it's out there, and then I connect my computer to their network, now all of a sudden the information on my computer could potentially be accessible by a threat actor sitting on one of my clients.
You got it. You would never know. The other one I like to talk about is online purchases. Right? Kids will go to any website at anywhere and buy anything. Right? Now, and I know this is kind of a tough one because we said this before. If you don't try new things, you don't have opportunities for other vendors to come around. Right? Mm-hmm. Well, my thing is just don't go to any old website and buy anything, right? Vet them a little bit.
My rule really is if they don't take PayPal, minus like the Amazons, right? The big companies that are out there they're known companies.
Yeah, right.
If they're an unknown company, they have to take PayPal or I'm not buying from them. That's just the way it is.
And if I buy from a site I don't know, I use my American Express, because they're really good with security.
Let me give you one. And I know we're coming up on time here, but I'll give you a little example of how absurdly paranoid I get about this topic. I'm in the market looking for a camper, a new RV to upgrade, right? And I was having discussions, and just to tell you how paranoid I am about any online activity, I went to a website that I know is legit because I've gone there multiple times and worked with the business, and I know that it's their site. Okay. I inquired through their site about certain campers. The next day, I got a call back on one of the inquiries about a camper. And in order to do a deposit, they needed a credit card number. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to give you that until I verify that you're you. This was after I had sent the inquiry through a known website. So I had to have the person, first of all, I had him send me a picture of himself in his uniform at work because their phones were messed up. I literally had to go back through, and their phones actually were kind of messed up that day because they'd just been bought. But I had to go through and find the phone number that actually rang through to the business before I would send him the credit card number.
Yeah.
Even though I initiated it, I just don't trust that somebody somewhere didn't intercept that communication and then they're going to try to get my credit card number and this. But you can't be too careful these days.
Man, I got to tell you what, my 15-year-old daughter goes to so many websites looking for clothes. So many websites. The only thing, the really tricky thing is that when you go to Google search and you just search for like, I don't know, what are they wearing these days? Whatever they're wearing today, right? Crocs. I don't okay. Know. And then and every website pulls up and you just don't know which is a legitimate site. I've got it to the point where, you know what, I'm not going to just click on any website. And it's really about training and talking to them about this. Always and over. The stranger danger thing, I never had that conversation one time. I had that conversation over and over and over.
And it's something that as they age and mature, the conversation matures.
Yep. And here's the great, go ahead, Vinny.
Just one thing, just one quick thing. And then you can continue. You can put certain protections in place, like, for example, Cisco Umbrella, right? Or something similar, some DNS type of, where if it's a known malicious site, she's not going to be able to go there, right?
Yep.
And so but that's not 100%, right? So you need to educate her as well.
Yep. Education's the key. Education's the key.
And that's really, to bring it full circle as to what the whole call today was. Where did we start? Talk to your kids.
Don't put your head in the sand. Talk to your kids. And guys, we've got kids, and eventually, if we live long enough, we're going to have grandkids. I know no one's thinking about it but me because I have a 20-year-old. Yeah. And so, the eventuality is that that's probably going to happen. And really, the more we talk about it to our kids right now, the more they'll talk to their kids. And so we've really started a good cycle of protection of youth in America if we actually do it. So, guys, I know it wasn't a law firm topic, but look, we deal with people all day long who have kids, who are professionals, and maybe don't think about this stuff. So if you're sitting at work and thinking at your desk, you're picking this up on podcast, and you have any questions about it, hit us up in the chat. We always monitor the chats long term. We always see them months afterwards sometimes. So, and we love to answer the questions. Hey, I got a question on one of our YouTubes. Hey, what about if I'm on an airplane? What do I do? Legitimate question. Ask it. We'll always see it, and we'll always answer the question months and months and months past the point at which we did this live show. So, guys, thanks a lot. I think it was a good topic. I think we really uncovered and talked about some important stuff.
Sounds good. So,
everyone, thanks a bunch. Thanks
you
for joining us. We're going to go pop out. We'll see you next week, 10:30 Eastern. Take care.
Bye, everyone.